Crop News brought to you by the Kansas Association of Wheat Growers and Kansas Wheat Commission. Together, we are Kansas Wheat.
Welcome back to the show. We're at the 2013 Ag Connect event going on in Kansas City, and we're joined by Reed with Pioneer. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity.
Drought. God, everywhere I go in the state of Kansas, everybody talks about drought. Let's talk about drought-tolerant corn.
Absolutely. So the theme of the show here, talking to customers the last couple days, have been, it's dry in my country. And my country is South Dakota to Illinois to everywhere you're at. Everyone wants to talk about moisture and the lack thereof. And they're asking about solutions. They're asking about programs and products that we can bring that can minimize the effects of drought. So it's a very, very common theme for the last 3 days here at the show.
Well, you can't really minimize. Can you minimize? I mean, you can't solve, but can you minimize?
We sure can. You know, ultimately, Mother Nature bats last, right? She's the one that dictates what we have. We have products, systems in place that allows us to, rain or shine, deliver more grain from less moisture. And that's the whole idea behind the plant here behind you with the Optimum Aquamax products that we've got. We have 42 products this year that deliver rain or shine. Less grain, less biomass, or more grain, more biomass on less rain.
Well, what about cattle guys who like to turn their cows out on stocks? Any difference there?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. Hopefully, for those guys that like to put them out on stocks, there's more biomass, there's more food to eat. Because obviously producing the same amount of plant structure off of less moisture. That's what it's about. So there will be hopefully more for the cows to eat.
Well, let's talk about it. I mean, what happens in South Dakota may not happen in Kansas. What happens in Mississippi may not happen in Kansas. Kansas farmer comes to you and goes, I have solutions for my farm only. Can you do that?
Absolutely. So drought, when you talk about drought differentiates across the world and across North America. So you look at drought in California, much different than the East Coast to the West Coast and from South Dakota to Texas. So what we've done is we've placed 8 research stations in those areas that allows us to look at drought and the characteristics of drought in that area. And it's different. So Woodland, California, all the way to the East Coast, it's much different on what drought is. Is it extreme heat? Is it hot nights? Is it lack of moisture? All of those components play in. And one thing's for sure is your drought's going to be different than my drought.
Right.
My drought's going to be different than her drought.
Right.
So it's really about providing solutions, about providing technologies that allows us to minimize the effects with Aquamax products.
Well, let's talk about technologies. I mean, getting something to market is extremely expensive.
It is.
And some of these seeds that are now coming out onto the market have been in research, I would imagine, for years. The money that goes into that and the proprietary information that goes into that seed. I mean, how do you guys work that at Pioneer as far as research and development, protecting your seeds, and then getting them to market?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an important part of our industry that we have an approved channel. When we see a need, when we address an opportunity for someone to say, hey, I'm looking for this solution on my farm, odds are we've probably got something in the pipeline today, but that pipeline starts from conception and all the way through commercialization. You're looking at 5, 7, 9 years. But throughout that process, we continue to focus in ways that we can continue to enhance on-farm profitability, really maximizing the potential for our customers. It's an intricate step, but it's addressing needs such as Aquamax with water utilization. It's talking about nitrogen utilization. It's talking about so many more components of growing more corn.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Aquamax. We're going to drill in a little deeper, if that's all right.
You bet.
You're watching Ag AM in Kansas. We'll see you in just a minute.
Crop News brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Thanks for staying with us. Thank you, sir, for staying with us.
You
I
bet.
appreciate it. Aquamax. What makes it the seed that farmers should go to?
Absolutely. So again, as we've talked the last couple days here at Ag Connect, everybody's saying, show me solutions as we talk about maximizing my opportunity in drought conditions. And there's really 3 things that separate Aquamax hybrids from the rest. The first is we use a technology called accelerated yield technology that allows us to minimize the effects of drought by looking into a funnel of the key characteristics like improved silking, extended stay green, more or less leaf firing, some of those key characteristics that we can look into this funnel, and we can pull out those key characteristics for drought tolerance, if you will. So we're able to put that and look at it across our genome, and we ultimately can pick out things that gives us more grain, more biomass from less moisture.
Well, when we're talking about that, and drought can't just be solved, and we talked about that in the first segment. I mean, if we're talking about drought tolerant, how much rain are we talking about as far as tolerant goes?
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody's definition of that is a little bit different.
Right.
And we've heard droughts the last couple days, guys saying 12, 14, 16 inches of rain. You think back, I'm from South Dakota, we had areas that were less than 3 inches. So everybody's characteristic of drought is a little bit different. So it's also about producing on less moisture, the same amount of grain that you would expect on a normal year. So it's less than what people expect, but it's about producing the same amount of bushels. So we don't really look at it from a number standpoint. Everybody's characteristics are a little bit different on it, and everybody's expectations are a little bit different.
Well, what happens when Mother Nature does kind of, like you said, she gets the last at bat?
Oh, yeah,
what
every
if she
time.
comes in and we're expecting maybe a dry spring and we end up with a wet spring and actually end up with a wet summer?
Yeah.
I mean, how does that play in with Aquamax?
That's a great question. So we talk a lot about drought characteristics, but we also talk about rain or shine. And given the conditions, one of the things, the key characteristics with Optimum Aquamax is that given tougher conditions, those drought conditions, we want to produce 5% more grain on less moisture. That's our target, is about 5%. But we also, if we get the adequate moisture, if we're talking 16, 18, 20 inches of moisture like we normally expect, it's about hybrids that won't penalize us, that aren't so drought stricken that it'll penalize us on top end yield. So it's really about rain or shine, and that's the beauty of the Aquamax system.
How long did that take to get to market?
You know, we've been, we launched 2 years ago, and in those 2 years we've had over 19,000 side-by-sides, our product versus the competition. But actually, in all reality, Aquamax has been in the system for over 5 years. From impact testing, we do our own internal testing, we've done research testing. We've had this thing in the pipeline for some time.
And if a farmer wants to find out more about Aquamax, what's the easiest way to do that?
I'll tell you, the best way is contact your local Pioneer sales representative.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Or go to the website?
Website, pioneer.com.
Perfect. Thank you for your time.
Thank
It's very
you
nice
so
to
much.
meet you.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.